Bottom of the league when Eddie Howe took over in November 2021, Newcastle approached this season's run-in with more hope than they had any right to expect, having become one of the Premier League's form sides over the winter period. At the time of writing, they're on a run of 19 points from 24, and with a single defeat since mid-December, somehow transforming from a team destined for the second tier to one of only 8 Premier League sides with a positive XG difference since Christmas, and sitting as close to 9th place on points as they are to the relegation zone. It's a staggering piece of work from Howe, whose past coaching attractive, attacking but defensively suspect football made him an odd choice for a team facing the drop. So how has the Englishman done it? What separates this Newcastle from the team Steve Bruce was piloting into oblivion? And how can they continue to grow next season? On today's FD Explained, we're looking at the why, the where, and most importantly, the how of Newcastle's dramatic resurgence. We can't talk about the Newcastle remontada without noting that they had the advantage of a blank checkbook facing the back half of the campaign. Fellow relegation battlers Watford spent £22 million in January, Norwich spent nothing, and Burnley turned a £14 million profit, while Newcastle shelled out an incredible £92 million, almost as much as the next 3 biggest spenders combined and the largest January outlay in the history of the English top flight. And, broadly, it looked like a sensible shopping list, adding 2 Premier League regulars in Matt Targett and Dan Burn, the main striker of a direct rival in Chris Wood, and Champions League level contributors in Bruno Guimaraes and Kieran Trippier, previously linked with Arsenal and Manchester United respectively. So it's tempting to say the story of Newcastle's improvement is a transfer story, and certainly those acquisitions have played their part. Trippier bagged 2 key goals in 4 appearances before being ruled out with injury, while Targett, Wood and Burn are all already regulars in the team. But we haven't exactly seen a game-changing impact from these men so far. Trippier is sidelined, Wood has a single goal in 9 matches, while Bruno Guimaraes has just 200 minutes for the club at the time of writing, with 8 of Newcastle's 13 goals since January 1st coming from players who started the campaign on Tyneside. Are they really climbing the table because they've bought so many players? Of course, we're not saying there aren't edges provided by the new guys. Dan Burn's enormous frame has made Howe's defence much more imposing, the Englishman succeeding in 67% of the tackles he's attempted compared to Jamal Lascelles' woeful 27%, and adding a 77% aerial win rate, the best among the side's central defenders. Wood is receiving 6 progressive passes a game compared to Callum Wilson's 3.5, and again has added height and physicality to the lineup. And leaving aside Trippier's goals, both he and Targett have provided a window into Howe's plan for this team, one which accentuates the side's advantages and minimises its issues. Upgrading the fullback zone was an easy win for Howe, but it required him not only to target better players, but ones who would bring the determination and specific skills he wants from the flanks, and the early returns are solid. Before Trippier's injury, in addition to his goals, he had become an important distribution hub, putting up 1.7 key passes and 4.6 progressive passes per game, a rate matched by only one other player in the squad, Matt Targett. Since the two arrived, they've ranked 1st and 2nd at the club for passes completed per 90 minutes, and that's allowed the Toon to advance up the wings, especially away from home, where Newcastle attack through the middle just 22% of the time, lowest in the league. And by using the wide areas to get forward, which are usually less congested than the centre, Newcastle are able to move from defence to attack quickly, consequently taking the fewest touches in the middle third of all Premier League sides, with nearly 20 fewer than Watford, who rank 19th by this metric. This of course played to Trippier's strengths, but it made the most of Targett too, who ranked 13th among Premier League fullbacks last season for passes into the penalty area. And more intelligently, it alleviated pressure on a midfield which simply couldn't do what a midfield is normally expected to do. Usually, you'd expect your midfielders to protect your back line, but also to be the heart of your side, controlling possession once it's won, and moving the opposition around in an attempt to create scoring chances. But Howe's team is nothing like this. Looking at his available talent, the coach realised that Newcastle wouldn't be able to control the ball against most PL sides, and while he brought in Guimaraes to try and move towards a more skillful team, in the short term he's focused on ramping up the qualities his midfielders do have, specifically mobility and aggression. Longstaff, Almiron, Shelvey, Willock and Joelinton are rarely on the ball given their position, or ranking in the bottom 30% of midfielders for passes completed per game, with Willock in the bottom 1%. but all of them, bar Shelvey, are absolute demons when Newcastle don't have the ball, placing in the top 25% of midfielders for pressures each game, putting up over 22 apiece, while all of them, again excluding Shelvey, make over 4 tackles and interceptions a match. That means that the centre of the pitch in a Newcastle match is a nightmare, with no time or space for opponents, and if they move it wide, there's little improvement either, with Target and pre-injury Trippier hugely active defensively as well, combining for over 12 tackles and interceptions per 90 minutes. All this means that since Christmas, only Manchester City, Brighton, Liverpool, Leeds, Chelsea and Arsenal have attempted to tackle more often than the Magpies, who do so every 9.6 opposition passes, helping to make up for the lack of a designated ball winner through a team-wide commitment to unsettling and disrupting opponents. Perhaps an unsurprising development, given that Eddie Howe used his time off after leaving Bournemouth in 2020 to travel to Spain, where he observed Atletico Madrid's training sessions under Diego Simeone. So Newcastle under Howe have found an identity, and in the process all but secured their top flight status for another season. But what can we expect from the Magpies as they go forward? In some ways, Joelinton's adaptation is a microcosm of his team's evolution too. The Brazilian ranked in the bottom 30% of forwards for XG per 90 last season, with 0.32, but this year ranks in the top third of midfielders by the same metric, even though his XG has slipped to 0.2 a game. So context is everything, and rather than being a subpar striker, he's now an above average midfielder, in the same way that Newcastle have gone from being a bad deep block side to a decent defensive pressing side. But is that what Howe is trying to create in the long term? His Bournemouth side, even when they were terrible, still had more of the ball than you'd expect from a relegation team, ranking 9th, 11th and 15th in the Prem for possession in their last 3 years under him, and they made the most of that possession too, at one point sitting 8th in the division for shots per game. So it's reasonable to expect that the manager will look to increase the miserable 39% possession the Toon currently see, and likewise improve their 74% pass accuracy, which also sits below every one of his campaigns with the Cherries. But as Newcastle move towards those goals, and as opposition sides adapt to their energetic tactics, the danger is that they lose the structure without gaining much, and tumble back down the table and into the relegation dogfight. Trippier and Guimarães should help here. Both have played in ball-dominant teams, and the Brazilian especially looks like a potentially revolutionary signing. Over the last year at Lyon, he ranked in the top 15% of midfielders for dribbles, the top 4% for passes completed, and the top 2% for progressive passes, as well as racking up a huge 5.3 tackles and interceptions a game, and contributing as much XG to the attack each game as Thiago, Tielemans or James Ward-Prowse, giving him one of the most well-rounded profiles in European football. But he can't run things alone. To help him out, Newcastle will need to sign at least one defender who can distribute, and another central player with solid press resistance and vision, ideally one less physically limited than Jonjo Shelvey, who, despite his 6 years of reliable service, needs to become less important to the Magpies' passing game. If Howe can find the sweet spot between the ball-allergic run-and-gun style currently succeeding at St James's Park and his preferred attractive possession play, he could have something truly special. If he can't, this season's struggles could remain a regular feature of life at Newcastle. But at least, whatever happens, it won't be boring. So that's our take on Howe's work at Newcastle, but what do you think of the job he's done, and who should they target in the summer to go to the next level? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, drop us a like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and you'll never miss an upload. We'll see you next time.